This is a match analysis between Nero and Chapi from the Japanese round of 8 games. So first off, looking at the pre-bans, Nero pre-bans Zio Harsetti, a very typical cleaver pre-ban setup, so Nero probably wants to cleave this match. Chapi pre-bans Bryceria Barunka. Bryceria is probably a target ban against Nero because he knows Nero loves picking this unit as a cleave opener. And Barunka is probably just a OP unit ban in general. Since he is second pick, he doesn't want to potentially give Nero the Barunka. But since Nero is cleaving this match, he probably wouldn't have picked it anyway. The Bryceria pick pre-ban could also be potentially because he himself wants to play some revival units against Nero. So now we still have a few broken units left open, such as Renak, Ahmed, and Mopera. Ahmed is usually picked on 3, so we won't see an Ahmed pick here. Probably going to be a Renak or Mopera. So he does go for the Renak, which is the fastest unit in the game, 129 base speed, and a very broken unit in general because of the 7000 fixed damage AoE pop. FCC does kind of counter this damage in general. However, since I'm seeing Nero's pre-bans and Chapi knows what kind of player Nero is, probably loves cleaving, FCC I don't think is a good pick against cleave in general because she just doesn't do that much against cleave. So she's good against Renak, but against cleave, not that great. And Abyssal Euphine pick I like here because it stops the potential Ahmed pick. Well, it doesn't stop it, but it makes the Ahmed pick a lot weaker. The Politis pick here is to just deny Chapi the Politis here. So, because Ahmed relies on CR pushes, otherwise she doesn't do anything, or doesn't do very much. So, denying Chapi the Politis pick here is pretty good. And this Politis is probably built full damage with full crit and full attack as another DPS option, because Nero is the one cleaving. Let's see how Chapi responds to this Ahmed. I hate Ahmed myself, like, she's just so broken after her EE. For the mitigation on Chapi's side, we have FCC here. However, personally, I would have picked a speed contester instead of FCC here, such as like ML Luna, and made a mitigation AU Fiend here. So since we have the mitigation on the FCC here, we know that this AU Fiend is a full damage build with either Elbrus or Holy Sacrifice. Chapi picks the Blood Moon Haste on 3, just a generic anti-cleave unit, and since he banned Bryceria, he can't be counterpicked with an anti-revive except for Sinful Angelica, which I doubt a cleaver is gonna pick. So, and he also goes with the Moon Bunny, which is a soft counter to Ahmed and Renak. However, I don't think she offers that much value, especially into Renak, because Renak's additional damage per 7k pop will still proc through the skill nullifiers. So overall, I think Haste is a decent pick. However, I don't really like... I'm neutral for the Moon Bunny, honestly. Okay, the Mort, probably because the AU Fiend has innate counter attacks, and the Blood Moon Haste is potentially built counter. However, nowadays, most people go full tank on Haste instead of counter, so with Proof of Valor, so we'll see what kind of build Chapi has. And also, the AU Fiend has inbuilt counter, as I said already, and potential Elbrus, so Mort just shuts that chance of RNG down. And the Genoa, probably one of the only options left against these heavy tank down units. The other option would be something like Strays. However, Strays wouldn't do much against the skill nullifier of the Moon Bunny, for example. And maybe his Strays is just too slow cut with the AU Fiend and is planning to ban last instead of banning the AU Fiend here. Just a few assumptions being thrown around from me. So he does lock in the Amaki. kind of don't like Chapi's draft because he has no speed contester here. Like, we have the AU Fiend CR cut for the armored CR pushes, but since we don't have anything to contest the speed here, his armored is probably still gonna take turn 1 on all of his units anyway. Nero is probably gonna outspeed with all his units because of the CR push. We have no speed here on this side, so it's gonna be a full tank down targeting Elmo Haste. Mort ban because Nero has because Chapi has potentially 3 counterattack units in AU Fiend, Blood Moon Haste, and Amiki. And Amiki pre-ban, post-ban because she's just an annoying AF RNG fest unit, and nobody wants to deal with that, similar to Haseri. And the fact that Nero probably planned his draft and picks around facing the first 4 picks and post-banning the last unit. So we have Armored taking the first turn here with Renak. I think that's 96%, 94%. Which is surprising because Renak has a higher base speed. But Nero probably tuned his units around Armored going first, so... He does go into the S2, into the S3, onto the Janua for the Gab, which does give the Chapi's team the skill nulls and immunity. However, since Renak has 2 attacks, the first one can get rid of the skill null on the most important target, Haste, and sends it into Haste. It is on counter and on Celestine, which I do not really like because counter Celestine is only really good against in turn 2 versus turn 2 matchups. But since this is against Cleave, you really want the Haste to live. And that's why you go full tank and Proof of Valor. So I am very scared of what's gonna of this Haste right now. I mean, of what's going to happen to this Haste. Gabbed up, oh no. Gabbed up Janua with a full defense pen, S3. Just destroys the Haste, and it's looking pretty bad for Chapi over here already. Seems to be a full damage Politis based on her low HP, but since they all had skill now, we didn't get to see anything. Any damage come through. Chooses to sleep the Janua. Really good play from Chapi here. He realizes he needs to get rid of the Janua ASAP and his immortality. So he chooses to S1 on the B-Dom instead of using S3 for the damage into the FCC S3 to potentially proc the immortality on the Janua and strip him of the immortality so the AU Fiend can follow up and kill him the turn straight after. I can't tell. If this Janua procced his immortality and got stripped by FCC, then Nero's pretty dead here. Okay, so Chapi got lucky but unlucky at the same time. He crit on the FCC, which let him almost proc the Janua immortality and strip it. If he did on that previous turn, then Nero would have died on this turn with his Janua. But since he barely did not do enough damage, which is the unlucky part, the Janua gets to live and proc his immortality here on the AU Fiend, and the AU Fiend's probably dead here. Lives on 1 HP thanks to the Aureus and the skill nullifier, but she's just dead against the Renak, and I think here we can pretty comfortably say GG Chapi. If the FCC stripped the immortality on the Janua and did enough damage, then it would be GG and Chapi would have won. But since the Janua did not proc, then Nero wins. Honestly, I thought Nero had it like 100% in the bag, but it was so close with that Chapi unlucky FCC.